What is going on, everybody? Zyonik here, and in today's video we are going to cover the Timeless Cup meta. The Timeless Cup was released yesterday and this cup is looking amazing, guys. Honestly, I think it may be the best cup to date when it comes to diversity, team building, and just a unique flair that you can bring to your Silph Arena tournament. Now in today's video we are going to be diving deep into the Timeless Cup meta with a graphic provided by GamePress and the team over there, Lorma96 and others, who have created this beautiful meta graphic. So we're going to dive deep into there. There's going to be timestamps down in the description if you guys want to jump to certain parts, because we are going to be talking heavily about each aspect of this graphic. But before we get into the meta, if you guys haven't been able to see what the cup's rules and regulations are, we're going to dive right into that real quick. So the Timeless Cup, choose wisely is the key words here, because what this cup is you get to start by picking a starter from Gen 1, 2, 3, or 4. So Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, or Sinnoh. Any evolution of the stage is permitted, but you can only choose one. So if you choose to bring Ivysaur, you can't have any other starter on your team, no matter who they are. So you start there, you pick your starter, and then from there, the restrictions come into play. So when you see things like the fighting band here, Blaziken is a fighting fire, but because of the rule, you get to pick a starter. If you pick Blaziken, you're allowed to have him even though he is fighting. Then from there, the bans come in. So what are our bans? They are fighting, normal, fairy, flying, steel, and psychic. These are, I think, a lot of key bans to very meta relevant Pokemon. Pokemon like Skarmory, Pokemon like Medicham, Azumarill, Altaria, Hypno, a lot of the big players, Vigoroth as well, are going to be banned, and this will allow for a lot of diversity of different types. We also see a ban to Umbreon and Sableye, so dark type Pokemon are going to be allowed, but Umbreon and Sableye are banned. Also bans to legendaries and mythicals, not a surprise there. Also the new gens, so the Unova, Alola, and Galar regions are banned. So no Alolan Raichus, no Alolan Mux, no Alolan Marowaks, none of that. So ideally what you want to do is you pick a starter and then you can build your team from any Pokemon that falls underneath these restrictions from Gen 1 to 4. So just because maybe you pick Venusaur doesn't mean the rest of your team has to be Gen 1. You can spice it up through all 4 generations. And another thing to note, guys, this is not a 1-month tournament. It is December 1st to January 8th. This will allow you to enjoy the holidays with your family, and then maybe come back at the beginning of January and really hit some Timeless Cup tournaments pretty hard. So that's really awesome to see. Now on top of that, if you are worried that you don't have these mega legacy Pokemon from Community Day, so Venusaur, Charizard, things of that nature, and you're wanting to really participate with this cup, what I would suggest you do is maybe hold off to see what Niantic is going to do for December's Community Day. We know last year they gave us all of the previous Community Day Pokemon in a weekend to allow us to catch them, evolve them. So we don't know what they're going to do for this year, but that is in the realm of possibility. So if you don't have that Venusaur, if you don't have that Swampert, you missed out on it, and you can't trade it, communities don't have it, what I would do is honestly hold off. Maybe look to do your Timeless Cup at the end of December, early January. And for those who do have everything like ready to go, definitely jump in early because other people may not be as prepared as you are. So that is the Timeless Cup. Now let's dive right into the Timeless Cup meta. All right, everyone. So the Timeless Cup meta simplified. This graphic is provided by GamePress and Lorma96. So shout out to them. Thank you so much for making this so quickly for us. It is beautiful. It is amazing and is to the point for what you guys need to understand when it comes to the Timeless Cup. So I know we said, you know, pick your starter is how it begins. That's kind of the team building guide. But when it comes to the meta, the starters are not the meta. They are the meta, but they're not the defining like 1 or 2 Pokemon. These 1 or 2 Pokemon, as you guys see on the graphic, are going to be Dragonair and Lapras. So Dragonair and Lapras, if you guys take a look at these arrows combined, they cover everything. So these two are huge players. Now Lapras with Ice Shard, Surf, and Skull Bash is going to be able to cover everything. You look at that. It can trade off with the Mud Boys. It can beat grass users because of Ice Shard. It can beat those fire users, right? And the poison users with Surf. It can beat Dragonair. So Lapras is arguably the meta-defining Pokemon. You know, the Lucario of Kingdom, the Umbreon of Ferocious. I think Lapras is very meta-defining. Now, that doesn't mean that it is so amazing that nothing can beat it. It's going to have amazing counters. But I think it starts there. So, starting with Lapras, we already talked about the moveset, but this thing is an absolute monster. And then from there, we have Dragonair. Now, Dragonair is fantastic because of one, it's got some decent bulk because of the second evolution. You have to power it up quite a bit, so it's going to be about level 35, right in that range. You're going to have Dragon Breath, Aqua Tail, and then you're going to want to either have Return or Dragon Pulse. Now, Return is from the Team Go Rocket battles. So that does a few things for you. First of all, you can get it, and then it's going to be cheaper to power up if you don't have a Dragonair already ready. And arguably, it's going to be the better version of the Dragonair because Return is going to get you out of sticky situations. So if you're fighting the grass users, it's either, if you have Dragon Pulse, the Aqua Tail obviously isn't going to do that much. And the Dragon Pulse is going to take forever to get to. So that Return does that extra nice bit of niche coverage of just general damage to finish it off where the Aqua Tail wouldn't, and you wouldn't have to put up a shield to stop that Frenzy Plant. So Return going to be the front runner for that, but that doesn't mean Dragon Pulse doesn't have its niche ability to do massive damage. So however you guys want to play that, that is up to you. But these two, I think, are the meta-defining Pokemon. And when it comes to your teams, I would highly suggest having these two or somewhat alternatives to that. And as you can see on the wild card, there are alternatives. So Celio is a great alternative to Lapras. And then Kingdra and Shelgon are alternatives to Dragonair. But man, these two. And the thing is, I got shiny of both of these. So my Dragonair doesn't have Return right now. It has Dragon Pulse, but it is shiny. So flexing that right now. Now moving over towards the left side of the graph, we have our fire and poison users. Now these guys are here to cover the grass. So poison and fire going to be handling those grass type Pokemon. And you have a option when it comes to picking a starter here. Charizard going to be the front runner. There's also Blaziken as well, but it kind of fulfills somewhat of a different role. Still the fire user, but it brings that counter. But for the pure grass coverage, Charizard is a pretty good fire choice, right? You're going to be having Fire Spin, Blast Burn, and Dragon Claw. That Dragon Claw going to be doing some extra nice damage to Dragonair. Blast Burn's just going to hit everything really, really hard. But he isn't your only option. You have great other options. So if we see the meta is kind of developing where everyone's using a Venusaur, a Venomoth could be a really great pick there. Because you'll be able to farm down with Confusion. It's going to be able to resist its moves. And then on top of that, you'll have that Poison Fang, Silver Wind for the proc. But other fire type users that I think are notable for sure, as we're seeing from the graph here, Kanto, Ninetales. So Ninetales having Fire Spin, and then you have Legacy Flamethrower or Psyshock, and then you could have Solar Beam. Solar Beam being the Hail Mary, and you get to it pretty quick when it comes to Fire Spin, especially if you are able to farm down one of these grass users and a Mud Boy is in the back for their team and they don't have a shield. So that's where that Solar Beam comes in. Sunny Castform as well. Now, Sunny Castform being the legacy with the Weather Ball. So Ember and Weather Ball for Sunny Castform is going to be great. Very spammy. It's going to take 6 Embers to get to the Weather Ball. So he's going to be a good option when it comes to fires. Now, the poisons, obviously, we've talked about Venomoth, but there's also Skuntank as well. Skuntank going to be having that Poison Jab, Crunch, Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb, however you want to run that. But Flamethrower is definitely going to be needed with all the grass and the ice type Pokemon that we are going to be seeing in this meta. So those are the poison fires. Now it comes down to the grass type Pokemon, and I think this is where the big choice is, honestly, to Community Day or starter a grass Pokemon or to not. I think that's a hard choice. So we have two great options when it comes to our starters. We have Meganium and Venusaur. Now, you could go with, Sceptile or Ivysaur or what have you, but when it comes to the powerhouse moves in the bulk, I definitely suggest Meganium or Venusaur. Even though Sceptile does have Dragon Claw, it's just not going to do that much damage because it isn't Stab. So Meganium and Venusaur definitely being front runners. Meganium's going to be great. It's going to be a little bit more bulky, but is going to be losing to Poison as well, where Venusaur having that Poison typing is going to be able to beat the pure Grass type Pokemon. And then on top of that, we have our Razor Leaf users. And you guys already know Victory Bell, Ludicolo, Gloom. Victory Bell and Ludicolo, the community favorites when it comes to that. And there's a lot of great play here. So if you decide to not go for a grass starter, I would highly, highly suggest you guys get a Razor Leaf user on your team. You're going to need it because the Mud Boys and Lapras are so huge, and Razor Leaf users can beat them. Now, Ludicolo is a unique pick with the fact that you can have Razor Leaf and then Ice Beam as well, and it also has Hydro Pump as well, but it's going to take forever to get to that with Razor Leaf. But the Ice Beam is going to be fantastic against coverage for those dragons. Now when it comes to Victory Bell, another fantastic choice, and you can run it a few different ways. Acid Spray could be potentially huge for this cup, definitely great shield bait, and it could set up things like Dragonair to come in with that Dragon Breath and absolutely shred. So those two I would highly suggest. If you don't have a starter that is a grass type Pokemon, you're gonna need a Razor Leaf user. They're going to be able to hard stop that Lapras. They're gonna be able to put in work, and they're gonna be there for the Mud Boys as well. And just because they'll lose to Dragonair doesn't mean they're gonna chunk health. They can absolutely chunk health, especially if you have an Acid Spray that lands on a Dragonair, or the Ice Beam that lands on the Dragonair. So there's, even though they lose in the fresh fight, if you think about that dynamic of the match, they are going to be able to pull a lot of moves with that. Now, moving over to a huge diverse category, that's going to be the water type Pokemon. So Blastoise and Swampert being those starters that are definitely huge. Feraligatr kind of falls from grace for the fact that Waterfall is kind of his only really viable fast move, and it's not high on the EPT. So Swampert's definitely a front runner, I think. Swampert's, he's a monster, guys. He can absolutely do a ton of work to the meta. Now, he does have to watch out for those Razor Leaf users. But the thing is if you don't choose Swampert, you have amazing options as well. So you have Whiscash and Quagsire, which I think kind of take the forefront when it comes to coverage. Quagsire, gonna be doing some work with that Stone Edge and Earthquake. So Stone Edge gonna be able to cover that Lapras, gonna be able to do a ton of damage to Dragonair. That Earthquake gonna be covering things like Lantern, which we may see, gonna be covering things like Ninetales, and Stone Edge just, it is such a huge kit. You guys know how deadly he is. There's no joking around when it comes to Quagsire, which is again why I mentioned you're going to want to have a Razor Leaf user, because if you can't stop the Quag's going to sweep your team. That's just a fact. Now Whiscash there. Whiscash having Mud Bomb and Blizzard. Blizzard's going to be able to handle those dragons really, really well. Going to be hurting those grass type Pokemon who decide not to shield. So there's huge shield baiting capabilities. And then he has the Mud Bomb as well for those fire type Pokemon and for those poison type Pokemon. So really fantastic kit when it comes to Whiscash. Now Blastoise is there as well. Blastoise having Water Gun, Hydro Cannon, Ice Beam is going to be a fantastic pick. I think he's a little less than Swampert for the fact that he can't pump out those Community Day moves, which is why we want those starters. But don't count him out, guys. He's got some great bulk, and he's going to be able to do the job well, just not as quickly, which you may not want when it comes to the dynamic of your team. Plus, if you got that shiny sunglasses 1500 combat power Blastoise, then you may just want to go with that because he is an awesome pick. So we also see that we have Politoed and Milotic there. There are going to be other great options. You're definitely going to need Legacy when it comes to that Politoed with that Mud Shot. And then Milotic with that Waterfall going to be putting in some work. So now we're going to head over to the wild card. So we had mentioned earlier, we talked about Celio and Castform being alternatives to Lapras. Now Celio going to be having Powder Snow, Body Slam, and Aurora Beam. Yes, guys, Body Slam spam is back. You guys remember this from the Tempest Cup. It is going to be a huge thing. And if you don't have that Legacy Lapras with Ice Shard, Celio might be your choice. Now, it is a heavy Stardust investment, but I would suggest trying to find Lapras and trade members of your community, as it was a community raid day when it came to Legacy Lapras. So they're going to be great alternatives to cover those dragons, to do some work to the grass, and just generally put out a lot of great damage. Now, alternative dragons, we had mentioned these earlier. Kingdra's pretty interesting for the fact that it is a dragon water typing, so it's going to be doing better against Lapras, but you also are going to be taking some more work from the frenzy plants and what have you, so it's a trade-off there, but you definitely can put in a lot of damage. Now, he doesn't have spammy charge moves, so you're going to be having things like Outrage and Hydro Pump. So takes a while to build up to it, which is why Dragonair is kind of the cream of the crop, the best here, because he can spam out so much. And Shelgon having a unique kit with the fact that he can have Flamethrower, so he can fight back against some of those Ice-type Pokemon we may see, like Frostlass or things of that nature. Now, the alternative Poison types. These guys are really interesting. I want you guys to not sleep on these picks. I'm telling you right now, Drapion with Ice Fang is no joke. If you see a Drapion, be sure to recognize the fact that you need to respect the Ice Fang. You just do. Now, when it comes to Muck is going to be very versatile, having Poison Jab, and then Thunder Punch and Dark Pulse, and you could go for some other movesets, but I think that's going to be the front-running moveset. So he's going to be very unique in that fact that he can kind of cover some of the grass-type Pokemon, cover Lapras with that Thunder Punch. Now, Swalot is another really interesting pick, having Infestation with that high EPT energy charge move, and then having moves like Ice Beam and Sludge Bomb giving him great coverage on the meta. Definitely do not sleep on a Swalot, because he can take you out before you know it. So moving into the ice counters and checks. This is a really interesting group, and again, do not sleep on this group. And some of these are, I think, so meta relevant because of the fact that Dragonair and Lapras are kind of the predominant Pokemon for this meta. These guys are there to help handle that. So Relicanth, even though it is such a small regional exclusive, there was an outburst of Relicanth in DC for that Pokemon Go, or for the Pokemon Championships, I should say. So if you were so lucky to be there and catch it, or you knew someone that was there and they have a few and you got it, Relicanth is going to be huge, guys. Water Gun, Ancient Power. It's going to do some work to Lapras, do some work to Dragonair, and it's going to also handle those fires, and then it can also do some damage to the grass, but it's going to get chunked by grass really, really hard. But he's going to be a great option. Now, Blaziken as well. Blaziken's not in the meta-defining picks, but he has his super niche coverage. He is one of the only starters that can face Lapras with ease. All you need to do is shield one Surf, and you just counter down the Lapras. Now, depending on where the Lapras is at with energy, you may have to shield two Surfs, but the thing is, you can completely farm a Lapras and have so much energy with Blaze Kick and Blast Burn to just unload onto the enemy team. So he is basically there as the Lapras hard counter and providing you with great general damage when it comes to his charge moves. Also, Sudowoodo, guys, do not sleep on a Sudowoodo. He will sneak up on you with that damage. Counter, again, doing great damage. And then he has Rock Slide and Earthquake. And Rock Slide's going to do more damage than you think. So definitely do not sleep on a Sudowoodo. We also see Omnistar and Lantern there. Again, Omnistar, Mudshot, Ancient Power kind of style. Very spammy, great coverage. Lantern, as you guys know, every tournament that Lantern's been in, he has done really, really well. This one, I think he's going to do well again, but he may not be the best of the best, but he can definitely handle the things that he needs to in terms of Lapras and Charizard when it comes to that. Now, finally, Ghost types. We have an interesting meta here because there's no really Umbreon or Sableye to kind of wall these guys. Haunter, Banette, and Spiritomb going to be great picks when it comes to a wild card pick. And again, legacies if you can get them when it comes to that Haunter. But Sludge Bomb may come into play against a grass type Pokemon if you can get it, but still Shadow Ball, Shadow Punch is going to be doing work to the meta. So definitely do not sleep on these guys, and this may call to rise to bring Venomoth as one of the only confusion users in the cup. We still have Dustox and a few others, but still, yeah, these ghosts are interesting. I'd be curious to see how many of you are going to be bringing one of these ghosts, as they're going to be doing great damage to the meta, but they're not kind of meta defining like they were for the Sinister Cup. So that is the Timeless Cup meta, guys. It is basically day 2 of the Timeless Cup preparation time, as it was just announced on Sunday, and we already have a beautiful graphic to help us with the meta. So I hope this helped, guys. This is definitely eye-opening when it comes to what you're going to need for your team, and ideally you're going to want one from each category and then maybe one of these spice picks on the side, or maybe double up on a category. So again, I highly suggest you get yourself a Dragonair and a Lapras, and then from there, whatever starter you choose, you want to have alternatives. So if you choose Swampert as your starter, you're going to want to have a Razor Leaf user and maybe Ninetales or a Poison user, and then mix it in with like a Relicanth or something like that. But yeah, so this is really fun, guys. Teams are going to be completely different based on the starter that you pick. And as of right now, if you guys are wondering where my thought process is for what starter I'm going to pick, it's kind of torn between the grass and the water. As some picks that I'm looking at right now being Venusaur and Meganium, or that Swampert. That's kind of where my mindset is at, because I do have great options to cover grass when it comes to Ninetales or Venomoth or Skuntank, things of that nature. And I do have great other options when it comes to Whiscash, Quagsire, Ludicolo, and Victory Bell. So it's a really tough choice. I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of simulations, a lot of battles, trying to figure out what team works for me. And I think that's what's most important. There is going to be no like super hyper team. I think every team will have Dragonair and Lapras. That's going to be a given. But the rest of it is just going to be spice based on how your play style is. If you like super spammy, then you may go for a Venusaur and a Whiscash, or if you like that fast move damage, you like switching in and punishing, maybe you go for that Razor Leaf and then bring the Swampert. So I hope this helped you guys. If you guys want to check out this graphic and this article, there's going to be links down in the description to that. So again, shout out to GamePress, shout out to Lorma96 and the whole crew over there for getting this out so early for us. Thank you guys. This will definitely help with our preparation. And yeah, Timeless Cup. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope you guys found it informative. So be sure to smash that like button, comment down below, and let me know what you guys think about the Timeless Cup. And if you guys are going to be bringing that Dragonair and Lapras, I honestly think it is meta-defining Pokemon that will likely be on everyone's team. And let me know what starter you guys are going to bring, because it would be really interesting to see the poll from the community on who's going to bring what as of right now. Now, things may change as metas change and whatnot with updates from Niantic, but we may not see that this time around. So, like always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.